forward. So if there's something that occurs to you and it's something that we as a board think that we need in our budget considerations, we can put that on the parking lot. The relevant administrator can go back, get us the information. We'll hear about it on the 24th or whenever we next have it. So just managing expectations there. We don't want to play too much 20 questions here, as we've had ample opportunity to look at these reports and come up with questions. All right, with that being said, let's start out with athletics. How's it going, Nate?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Good. Good evening, everybody. Nate Priest, Athletic Administrator at the high school and the middle school. Here to present to you the budget workshop for athletics. Start with some recognition and celebration. So this past year, or this past autumn, our football team earned the Maine Principals Association Good Sportsmanship Award. The second year in a row they've won such an award.
Just stop you for a second, Nate?
Please, yeah.
Because I think the reason that this is so close to us is so that we can see the slide, right?
It's on a major delay.
Oh, it's just on a super delay? Okay. So the slide is gonna come?
Yeah, so, see, I'm not waving.
Oh. Oh, this is very strange. Okay. Oh, now I'm gesticulating. Oh, here it is. All right. Okay, now that
I'll
explains
try to
it.
slow down.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yes, I would like you to speed at 50 beats per minute or something,
right.
nice and slowly.
I'll do my best.
It's never gonna match.
Okay, that's all right. Well, it is what it is. Here we go.
All right, so
Now we're on your first slide with the football earned.
Okay. So football, the team earned the Maine Principals Association Good Sportsmanship Award this past fall. The second year in a row they've won such an award. Boys cross country finished 4th at state, so the state championship, which equals their best finish in program history. And we had 25 student athletes this year, earn Western Maine Conference fall all academic honors, which is it's up 2. We had 23 last fall to 25 this year, and it's a great recognition for those 25 student athletes. So I know you don't see the next slide yet. I can wait or I can continue.
We'll never get through it, we constantly.
Yeah, so I guess
It's up in the.
we'll do our best with the slides. Actually, we can just listen to you and not be too.
Fair enough. The result of last year's goals, we did have protective fencing installed at the baseball dugouts at the end of August and end of the summer. That's both on the home and away dugout. This is going to be a Maine Principals Association's requirement for dugouts across the state, so that has been completed, which is great news for our baseball program. And middle school volleyball program, we did start kind of a quasi middle school volleyball program this year. We had 18 middle school athletes sign up for volleyball. Unfortunately, we weren't able to secure a coach, but we were able to implement the program nonetheless with assistance from volunteer high school athletes and the coaches at the high school. So gave those student athletes an opportunity to at least try volleyball, and they were awarded at the end of the season with a match against Greeley. So hopefully we get some kids to return next year. Update on this year's goals. We implemented a new academic eligibility policy, which I think has gone really well overall. A few speed bumps in the beginning as students and coaches and faculty were getting used to the new policy. But ultimately, we found that student athletes have become more accountable for their academics, which ultimately is the goal. So it's been humming along pretty well so far. And then esports, I know we weren't able to start an esports program this year, but that is going to be a priority going into next school year, reworking and rectifying the processes for implementation of the esports program. We've done kind of a straw poll. We have about 20 or so current students who are interested in esports. So there's definitely interest at the high school with the goal that we'll have it up and running for the autumn of 2024. Current challenges, so officials' fees, they continue to increase. That's really beyond our control. Mileage rates are going up. It's really across all sports. Every school department or every athletic department across the state is affected by it. It is what it is, I think. Number and age of officials, this is also a challenge. If you've been to a football game or volleyball game, a soccer game, field hockey, whatever it might be, you'll notice a lot of our officials are on the older side. That problem's not really going away. A lot of those officials are pretty close to aging out. And then just the number of officials really across the state's declining. Some sports are a little bit better spot than others, but overall the number is going down. So just some challenges that we're experiencing a little bit, but I think geographically we're in a pretty good spot when it comes to officials for now. And then gym space, anybody who's been to a varsity basketball game this winter, really in past winters, gym space is a little bit of an issue. Spectator seating, the walkways for spectators in front of the bleachers, that's certainly a concern. It's been a challenge so far this winter as well. And then some of our partnerships that are being leveraged. We have great partnerships. We've had them for many of these for a long time, and we continue to build on these relationships and partnerships. Gray Recreation Department, New Gloucester Recreation Department, our fabulous athletic boosters, they're very supportive. Patriot Parents, G&G Little League, Patriot Grandstand Club, Patriot Lacrosse Club, Patriot Soccer Club, Special Olympics with our unified programs, both basketball and bocce. The YBA, the Youth Basketball Association, and Nathan Zucroft, who takes the photos for the middle school and high school. So a lot of really strong partnerships there that we continue to honor. And that's all for the athletic report.
Thoughts or questions for Nate? I guess the only, I don't know if it's a parking lot question or if so the officials fees going up as a problem, is that like something that we should expect as a budget impact, or this is something that we can absorb into what we've already got?
It'll be an incremental budget impact. I haven't run the numbers quite yet, but I'm gonna guess probably 1 to 2%. That seems to be pretty consistent over the last few years.
Go ahead.
So I just thought of one that came to me as we both went through this presentation, and it's probably going to be a parking lot question. With the new eligibility procedure, is there any data or anything to see whether students are spending less time ineligible because of it, or more time ineligible? And then conversely with that, you said that they're more accountable for their grades, which is good, their schoolwork, which is definitely a point, but I'm curious how that's affecting their eligibility for the sport. Are they spending more time ineligible or not?
That's a great question. Having, this be my first year at G&G, I don't have an answer for you, but I can certainly look at that.
That's fine.
That's a great question. I know the previous school district I was in, we saw the shift, and I would say it's very positive, at least in that school district, and I can certainly find out for this one as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, we've stated as a board a goal of just having as many kids participate as possible, right? Obviously, the eligibility is important to us. It's just, we want to make sure the knob isn't, knocking too many people out, and, hopefully it's an incentive for them to do the work and not a disincentive to play. So I think that is an interesting piece. Any objection to that on the parking lot? Great. So, just as a broad statement, any other, I saw in the report there was, the grandstand maybe needs, the seating in the gym maybe needs some refurbishment, and the walls need painting. Is that all something that's likely to be in the capital improvement budget? No problem. We haven't really heard of those things, or do you expect any sort of extra ask that we should be looking forward to in the, budget process?
Not this year, I don't think extra asks. I know that we did do some painting actually over the holiday break. We had a volunteer come in and do some painting in the gym, so I think things like that might be the expectation, but as far as just an extra ask, bleachers or any of that kind of capital items, I don't foresee that.
Okay, great. All right, anything else? All right, thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
Let's move on to co-curricular.
So I neglected to send you a document. It's been ready for 2 weeks. I just sent it to you 4 minutes ago.
Okay.
It's pretty self-explanatory, and I think Sadie and Rick can work you through it.
You might have to nudge me when it's my turn, because I don't have
Good button push. Excellent. Good evening again. Sadie Grealish, principal of the high school.
Rick Riley Benoit, middle school.
And I will kick off with some high school recognition and celebration. One highlight is our Patriot players received 10 awards and recognitions for their one-act play last year, which was a play with words. We had 3 students recognized for all festival cast, 1 student for outstanding lighting, another student for outstanding music, 4 students for outstanding running crew, and as a group, they received the runner-up for the regional festival. So that's a pretty incredible accomplishment. Our robotics team was recognized through the main robotics company for gracious professionalism, which was defined as students who produce high-quality work, emphasizing the value of others and respecting individuals and the whole robotics community. And our community service club, they do the weekly MSAD 15 backpacks, which varies between 50 to 100 students a week are sent home with food. They do senior citizen yard chores. They worked with the communities to have raking, stacking wood. They're doing shoveling now. And then also sponsored, just within the group themselves, sponsored 11 families for the holidays in the Greater Gloucester area.
And a couple things for us at the middle school with our co-curricular clubs. Our National Junior Honor Society supported families in need at both Thanksgiving and Christmas. So Thanksgiving put together food baskets. Christmas did a toy drive as well. And we had 23 students that auditioned for District 2 Music Festival, either band or chorus. 11 were selected. It's a very competitive program, so it's great that we have that many, and that's actually up from last year we had 9 in total, so it was an increase.
Excellent. Our goals for middle school and high school co-curricular last year was to increase student participation rates. We've seen an increase overall in both middle school and high school. We did so by developing newsletters that went to all students and also to all families about each one of our clubs. We also did school-based club fairs where freshmen, sophomores, and then it was optional for the upperclassmen, walked through the entire Aux gym, and the students had tables set up just to learn more about each club personally, and then through advisory presentations as well. We also updated some club equipment. Specifically, our color guard had equipment that was over a decade old. Poles had kind of wear and tear on them, so we updated some of those equipments. And we're very excited to have offered our new Technology Innovators Club at the high school. We had actually a student present to our staff, and they're really looking at, with a mission to just sort of promote all the wonderful things that are going on with our school. So if we do advisory activities, they're posting pictures. If like any of the clubs get awards, so it's just really to promote all the things that are going on in our schools, as well as update after-school activities, just to keep that TV showcasing for our students in the main lobby.
Second goal was to review this year's goal, to review current club offerings and explore new club opportunities. So we do check in with our students regularly to find out what they're looking for, what kind of clubs they want to see. At the high school in particular, there are students expressing interest in woodworking and building. Middle school, we're expanding that technology club kind of down from the high school and want to start our students younger, being able to build into that. We would like to make a combined effort with our outdoor educator and try to offer some programs that slide 7 through 12 as an outdoor education program. Yoga is, particularly at the high school, is a big interest right now, and unified robotics.
And just kind of piggyback on the yoga and unified robotics, at the high school level, we had 16 students actively pushing for wanting yoga after school, just physical activity, but they didn't want to participate necessarily in a sports team or a club that we have. So we have, one of our school counselors is gonna work with a volunteer from a local yoga studio, and 2 times a week after school coming to do yoga. We have 16 students regularly showing up for that
Great.
on a volunteer. We've also been asked, because of our robotics team at the high school doing well, we were asked to pilot our unified robotics team this year. And they're covering the cost of that, and just to see how it works for this 1 year. The current challenges, I think similar to what Mr. Priest shared, increase in dues and fees, especially our clubs that are involved in organizations. Staffing challenges that exist for most full-time positions. We hear about our ed techs, and support staff exists for these positions as well. And then the scheduling conflicts due to limited fields and space ability. Our stage, as we were going through the process for the bond, we realized the stage is over 500 hours just of rehearsal time on the stage. So sometimes trying to get certain things, there's always those conflicts in practices with 6 teams using the gym at one time, so that continues to be the challenge.
Partnerships, both the Community Service Club at the high school and NJHS partnered with Caring Communities around the Thanksgiving drives and Christmas drives. Big Brothers and Big Sisters, we started gaining some traction last spring again, and some of that has continued into this year. We still have some work to do around that, but that's a good partnership for us. Patriot Parents, always hugely supportive of our students, our staff. Sea Change Yoga is the group that offers your yoga after school. And the Good Shepherd Food Bank is also a partner for us.
Perfect.
All right, thank you guys. Thoughts or questions on the co-curricular presentation? If you want to take a look, take 2 minutes to check your email. The document that Craig sent along is really cool. It is just a list of all of the co-curricular clubs and the current participation. It says 21, 22. I think we just didn't update. It's a copy paste from last time, so it's 22, 23, 23, 24.
Yeah, it's the
Just
current
making
year.
It's the current year.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Penny.
Scanning through this document while listening was pretty impressive with all the activities laid out and how many kids. And I know it's, I'm sure there's a lot of overlap, but do you have a guess on like percentage-wise? I know we know how much percent of the school does arts or sports. Do you know what percentage of the Milton High School is doing at least one activity, co-curricular activity?
It would be a guess. I don't have that percentage. If I had to guess, I would say for the middle school, we're probably above 60%.
Yeah.
Because there is overlap. There are multiple students that, play basketball and are in the play. And so there are a lot of kids that repeat that, but, it's,
Pretty high.
it is high numbers. It's great involvement.
And I don't have the number at the high school as well. I would say it's a little bit less than what Rick's sharing at the middle school. I think we have students that are part of multiple clubs, but we also have a lot of students that are expressing interest in different clubs. Like one was the woodworking club, or just in the same thing with the yoga, like different groups of students that weren't involved at all prior to, were like, how can we go about exploring this as a possibility? One thing we're also doing, Rick and I, in the document that you guys are looking at, is looking at current clubs. Like, do we have numbers, just reviewing all of our clubs to see, do we want to maybe run this club this year instead of this club, but really just assessing and reviewing where we are with the current clubs as well. Especially clubs that have lower numbers. Like, can we combine, or? we're gonna explore that as well.
Yeah. So just a refresher for new members of the board, all of our co-curricular offerings are stipend positions for the teachers or whoever it is that is sort of the overseer of that activity. Those are all in the Schedule B of the teacher's contract. And so if we want to add a new, official club, we have to come up with a job description and a stipend that's commensurate with the amount of hours we think in an hour, week that they'll be sort of working on it. Which is all lead up to the question of, do you envision, you said there's some interest, do you envision proposing new stipended positions, or do you think we're sort of good with the number we have this year?
Yes, at the high school I'd like to, and again, I really want to assess which ones there is a club or two on there that may be looking at not running that for a year and trying a different club, so it doesn't necessarily increase budget, but just trying different options that would reach out to more students.
And I think some of it still remains to be seen, just exactly how much interest is in, for example, in the outdoor ed club. How much interest are students going to show? Who's gonna really sign up? Because our kids that are active, and a lot of times are active in multiple clubs. But an outdoor ed club, we're feeling like we'll draw some kids that aren't sports oriented, but they like to be active. So it might be kids that like to do things like hike, right? We've got great area around here that we could have kids doing afternoon and go put some holes in the ice and do a little ice fishing for a couple hours. There's a lot of opportunity for that, right here. So we want to be able to do that and let our kids explore those lifelong activities. Just think that's a good avenue. But it'll be determined when we see that.
Oh, go ahead, Cole.
I just want to clarify, Sadie, what you said about the stage. You said it was 500 hours. Is that just the high school?
Yes,
Is
and
that
just
for a
rehearsals.
year?
Yeah.
Just
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 rehearsals.
rehearsals.
Just rehearsals.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Jason.
So, again, this is probably a parking lot question. I'm wondering about some cross information between the co-curricular and athletics to see if we can get how many students or what percentage of students are participating in something,
Mhm.
right? Whether it be co-curricular or athletics.
And technically, athletics are co-curricular, so it's a subset.
But
I would be
These
interested,
numbers don't reflect.
Right, exactly, yeah. It's definitely a data point that we've gotten in the past,
Yeah.
and I think if that is, not necessarily for the next meeting, but I think when we get to, the March, debating on the budget numbers type of thing, that would be data that would be helpful to have
Absolutely.
available. It's been a, stated board goal that we'd like to get to as close as possible as 100% of our middle school and high school students doing something co-curricular. So it's always interesting to see how close we are to that.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Fran.
How many students, do you have any idea how many students are in more than one club that are in this list?
I do
Or
not.
can they only belong to one club, or
They can be multiple.
they belong to?
Yep.
So would that be something you could look
Mhm.
into?
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
The other question, and this is more of a speculation on your part, and I know there's really not a data point behind it, but when you look at 74 kids in the middle school band and 75 kids in the middle school chorus, and then I think it's 90 kids in the middle school drama program, those numbers are about a third of that in the high school. In your opinion, is that just the natural winnowing? Kids get different interests, or are there resource or facility or any other barriers that would keep kids from continuing on?
Yeah, so we definitely saw a decrease in numbers when we had staff change. We had some staff that were connected prior to COVID. So when we had a staff member change, we saw a decrease, and then also through COVID. So we're kind of moving out of those numbers, and now we have a certain, Ms. Flynn works through middle school and high school. And so I think a lot of the students having the comfort of having her as a teacher at the middle school and then at the high school are looking forward to continuing. So we definitely see prediction for those to increase moving forward. to kind of get back to our pre-COVID numbers.
Great. Also on the outdoors club, before COVID, I just know that my daughter did the trip to Acadia with the biking, and then they had the Allagash canoe trips, and then COVID kind of killed those off for a couple of years. Have those returned, or?
We did do the bike trip
Oh, great.
last year. One thing that has changed is that there now is a requirement for us to either have registered Maine guides or
Oh,
outdoor trip leaders certified through the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. Any backwoods trip, any water activities, those have to have a 1-to-12 ratio.
interesting.
Right now, we have one outdoor educator, so that's really stifled that. Although there are, actually, I am going to participate along with 3 of my staff members. We are going to all take wilderness first aid this spring and complete the coursework to be certified outdoor trip leaders. So hopefully we're able to, at least for the middle school, better able to bring that back. I think there's some opportunity for high school staff yet, still.
And we have
but
4 in the high school that will be participating. It's one of our
Great.
current employees that is gonna run
Yeah,
the program.
Yeah, I just, in terms of co-curricular benefits that the district offers, those were, I have never been on the Allagash. I have never, ridden a bike in Acadia. My daughter has, thanks to the middle school.
Yeah.
And I just think those kind of opportunities, if we can offer them, and if there is a resource barrier, I wanna make sure that comes before us, just to make sure, cause I can't imagine,
yeah,
the bang for the buck on that seems really good.
yeah. They're really, and that really where we're at right now is it is that certification.
Okay.
Is kind of our barrier.
Go ahead, Fran.
Are these, like main guides and other required personnel, are they able to volunteer? Or does the state have restriction and say they must be paid main guides, say for instance, or?
No, there is no restriction that they have to be paid personnel. They do need to hold a Maine Guides license, again, or this outdoor trip leader certification. There is there is the first aid piece, and then there's another training piece to get that certification. So we would need people, either a guide or certified in that way. But it wouldn't stop us from, if somebody was a Maine guide and said, I want to volunteer and help lead these trips.
So
Right.
if somebody in the community would like to volunteer, would the process be that they have to go through that background search and all that, or do
They
they
need to
just
complete a volunteer application, through the
an
district.
application
Yeah.
even to volunteer?
Yep.
And do you reach out to citizens in the area for volunteering, or is there a program for that, or?
We've had people in the past do that. We've had the game warden at Round Pond take middle school students and teach them about the pond, teach them how to fish, teach them how to make a campfire. So we have had that volunteer in the past.
It's a good thing to reach out. There's a lot of talent in the community.
Absolutely.
You heard her, everybody watching on TV. Raise your
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
Sign up.
That's great. Any other co-curricular thoughts or questions? All right, so I have as a parking lot question, just that we are gonna try to endeavor to find the percent of kids overall in the middle school and high school that do co-curriculars and athletics. And I think that's all I had. All right, awesome. Thanks,
the number of
guys.
students that do
Duplication,
multiple. Yep.
duplication.
Oh, and
I
the
have that.
duplication,
Yep.
yeah, as part of that,
That
yep.
written down.
All right, great.
Perfect.
Let's move on to the high school.
You wanna stay up, Rick, you can.
be
Moving
back
on to
up
the
in a
high
minute.
school. Some recognition and celebration from the high school. 95% of our full-time students in the class of 2023 graduated. We had 1 student complete their graduation requirements through our summer academy. We had 3 students receive their diploma through the Maine Department of Education, the diploma. And we had Out of the 6 that did not graduate, 4 of them have a formal plan to come back and still receive their diploma, whether it's through us or adult ed. Mixture of both. 70% of those graduates had a GPA of an 85% or better. And out of that percentage, 62% had a 93 or better. The pretty amazing part, putting that number up there, is the number of students that are taking upper level courses in this percentage. So it's students that they're challenging themselves, they're taking rigorous classes. We had 125 students currently enrolled in at least one International Baccalaureate, or IB class. We've seen a 110% increase in those courses from the 2022 cohort. And it's our largest group of students since 2016 taking part in these courses. We also, for dual enrollment courses, we have 106 students enrolled in at least one of our dual enrollment courses. Out of those students, it's a growth of 26 students from last school year enrolled in those courses. So we're definitely seeing a lot more students taking these opportunities.
That's great.
And our results of last year's goals, one of our goals last year was to increase vertical alignment within the content areas through developing curriculum binders. So each department, each content area developed a digital binder that has a syllabus in it. It has every standard covered in the courses. So they identified which standards will be developed. They identified common assessments that they went through a process. So if a student has teacher A for Algebra 1 or teacher B, the end result is that they're leaving with that same information. They're able to complete that same assessment at the end. We started horizontal and vertical alignment discussions within the departments. So teachers would talk about, for example, a 9th grade curriculum. They would talk about, every standard they covered. They would review the data. So they would review NWEA data. They would review their common summative assessment data to see where there's gaps. And then they started talking vertically about each grade level. Where are we seeing strengths? Where are we seeing areas that we need to focus on? And develop a plan with those binders. This is the quantitative data. When we look at the NWEA data, that we reviewed, we decided to take a look at one cohort. So we looked at the class of 2026. And this is the percentage of students that were proficient and advanced. So that's the 40th to the 99th percentile. Last year, that cohort of students and percentage in advance was 65%. This fall, 81% of those students were proficient or advanced. So that's a pretty significant growth, 16% in reading. And math, we went from 61% last year to 68% growth. So that just kind of shows the work that they are doing with finding the gaps and really assessing where are we and where are our strengths and where are our challenges is working.
I'm sorry, could you explain that again?
Yep.
It's just hard to see.
Yeah.
Now it's right in front of us, and so
Yeah, sure.
it sounded really good, but I wanted to make sure I could explain it again.
Yeah, so we decided to look at kind of comparing one cohort of students rather than grade level.
So this is 9th grade into 10th grade,
Yes,
the same kids.
The same cohort.
Yep.
Otherwise, it was comparing apples to oranges. So we decided to look at the 9th grade cohort last school year. Only 65% of that cohort demonstrated proficiency and or advanced in reading. And that increased to 81% this school year as 10th graders.
Got it.
And then the same thing with math. It went from 61% last school year to 68% of students this school year.
That's terrific.
Our, another goal too from last school year was to increase awareness and access to multiple pathways into our diploma endorsements. We use Advisory as our platform to reach all students in grades 8 through 11 to learn about our IB programming, our advanced placement programming, paths, dual enrollment, early college, and then also our diploma endorsements. Paths, every 8th grader last year had the opportunity to go visit Paths just to get that experience and to learn more about their programming. We created a plan to really instruct students and families about the multiple pathways. exactly what they are, and then how to go about that process. And then we maintain 5 teachers who are designated to help coordinate and oversee that pathway program. So we have 1 teacher for each content area, that's sort of an expert in that area, so they assess with us to make sure that that student's on track with the pathway. The quantitative data, and I know Jason, I think you've asked in the past to kind of see exactly how many. So we use the 21-22 school year in comparison to last school year. And the alternative pathway went from 3 to 6 students. Our high school diploma endorsements increased from 1 student to 4. And the state of Maine seal by literacy increased from 7 to 11.
We probably have several board members that might not be sure of what those things are, the seal of biliteracy,
So the alternative pathway credit is students can do, if it's experiences outside of school. So if they do a program, for example, like a science program outside of school, or if they do a sport, or if they do some type of fitness, they can apply to go through an alternative pathway process to earn credits for high school, for outside of school experiences. So we've had students that have done John Hopkins School for a week in the summer, and they've put together, here's all the curriculum, here's what I'm doing. We connect with a person from that program just to gather the information, and then we assess if it can earn a high school elective credit. So we've had students go through our sports programs and earn a PE credit. We've had students do intensive dance programs and earn credits. But there is a process where they have to apply ahead of time, then they meet with myself and the school counselor, and then that coordinator person, just to make sure that they're on track. They have to do at least 50 hours, and there are certain criteria that they have to follow. Our high school diploma endorsements, so we have our Greater Gloucester High School diploma, and then above and beyond, we have a humanities, where a student can take, they have to do a certain criteria of outside of school hours, and also a certain level of upper level courses. So if they do a humanities, their upper level courses would be in English and social studies. We have a STEM endorsement. We have a STEM and distinguished studies endorsement. So we have distinguished studies endorsement encompasses everything. So they have to take so many upper level courses above and beyond. They can be IB courses, they can be college courses in every single content area. Plus do an outside of school portfolio that they then present. I expect this year that number to probably triple, to be honest with the amount of meetings we've had. A lot more students, I think it's kind of getting back into and just being more aware of the process. So I see that number definitely probably tripling, if not more this year. And then the state of Maine seal by literacy is awarded for world language, and they take an assessment. It's a state assessment, so it's not through us. And then they get awarded that from the state.
That's great.
Alright. And then our goal 3 from last year was to improve academic outcomes, community connectedness, and school safety. Part of our faculty, we had school improvement teams that met once a month. So we met as a leadership team to say, what are our main goals in our school that we want to focus on? One was our advisory program. Another was improving student attendance. Another one was multi-tier system of support, which we call, you may have heard, MTSS-A focuses on academic, and then the B focuses on the behavioral component. And so we had 4 different teams of our teachers, and they signed up to where they want. They had 3 goals throughout the year that they worked on, and periodically, quarterly, they'd share with all staff their report out. So they were basically staff teaching other staff, what their learnings are in those areas. For the student component, we had student representatives from each advisory met monthly with the administratum. They shared themes, concerns, and ideas from their group. So every month we would pose a question through advisory. The advisor would meet with all of their advisees. They would have a topic, it could be school safety. And they would have a discussion as an advisory group, and they'd represent 2 students from that group to come meet with Ms. Costello and myself, and we would have a roundtable discussion with students from the building to really get their voice. Like, what do you think is going well on this topic? What are some suggestions? And then we would meet with student leaders to plan possible next steps to address whatever their concern is. So it was just really giving them that opportunity to have a voice and be part of that process. And the other part was the advisory lessons. They were developed and shared with staff, and they were presented weekly to students at the high school. We have them Wednesday. And again, it's every student in grades 5 through 12 that are getting that information. The administrators, school counselors, and the advisory coordinator gathered data, which we continue to do, about strengths and gaps in the current programming. But again, it's just a great way for us to be able to give access and information to small groups of students, and make sure that everyone's getting the same information. In the past, we would call big class meetings, and really probably half of the students were listening and digesting what you were saying, but at least when it's in smaller groups, they're able to get that information and have really good discussions. An update on this year's goals. One of our goals this current year is, again, to sort of increase on the vertical alignment discussions and then start some integrated curriculum. Our faculty engages in structured conversations, grades 8 through 12. We're really trying to work with, Rick and I are setting up times where it's structured conversations and with our 8th grade and 9th grade teachers to help with that transition, especially, what are we seeing that students are missing when they come to 9th grade, or what are some strengths, and so really kind of bridging that gap between the middle school and high school transition. Chanda is putting together district curriculum guides that will be shared with you all, so it's pre-K through 12 work for each content area. And then to continue developing those digital binders. The nice part about those digital binders that I referenced earlier is that they are a living document. So if there's gaps, we want to fix those right away, and they're constantly making changes to those as well. We are starting the process of more integrated curriculum, and what that is we're focusing on English and social studies teachers working together to say, okay, what's common themes that we can work on instead of repeating the same thing? What are units that we can work on together? And then same with our math and science teachers. We also want to increase the number of students receiving the diploma endorsements. Again, we know we have a lot of students in our PASS program that could, to get like the CTE, the Career and Technology endorsement, the same with our Distinguished Studies. So just making sure, we had several students that received scholarships last year based on those endorsements. So just making sure that students know that they're an option for them. So faculty will promote, we're using a lot of through English, because every student has English, and then through our advisory program to make sure that students are just aware of this opportunity. And again, we're going to continue to work with students in grades 8 through 11 on all of these pathways, and making sure that middle school and high school families are also knowledgeable. So in February, we're going to have a Zoom with middle school parents just to make sure that they know that this is an option and they know the process for that as well. The third goal is to improve our state assessment participation. We know that we're in tier 2 for our participation rates. Last school year, we had about 60% of our students participating in the NWAA, which I'm very pleased to say with a lot of this using advisors, using our advisory discussions in the cohorts, and also having a schedule that really promotes and shows how important this assessment is. We went from 60% participation rate last year to 96% participation in reading and 95% in math this year. So we made such a significant growth, which will hopefully get us out of that tier 2. And then also making a priority to make sure families and students know about the assessment, why we have this assessment, and how we use that data that we gather from it. And our fourth goal is to really focus again on the academic outcomes and focus on our MTSSA, which again is the academic response to intervention for students struggling. Behavior, MTSSB, making it more of a positive school climate and culture, and then our advisory program. Based on the data that we reviewed last year, one of the big needs was to develop some type of 9th grade English intervention. We had our 2 primary 9th grade teachers teaching an extra section of students that maybe didn't need to be in foundations level. They could take that college prep level, but they just needed a little more support. And so we had 15 students in that program, which was extremely successful this year. So they were able to take that upper level that upper level course with a little bit additional support. So it was very successful. We're gonna continue our school-wide flex block. So 3 times a week, we have a 30-minute block where students can either receive additional support in classes or enrichment opportunities if they need to do a lab or an art enrichment or something of that nature. And then constant using our internal, so using our coaches that we have to provide training to our staff to reinforce our expectations. And we're gonna continue with the student representatives from each advisory to engage in those monthly conversations, and then also to really use our students to plan the next steps and how we're gonna resolve certain situations. And we wanna really work on increased opportunities for professional development time for our staff, for high school and middle school, to talk about increasing career and college readiness through our advisory program. A lot of the feedback was saying that students didn't have that information or exposure. So we are very excited. We have a new program that we're gonna start working with that just has amazing opportunities for our kids and our families. That's free of charge, and it is absolutely incredible to help with that. Current challenges is the chronically absentee is very high. The difference between that and truancy is chronically absent is even if a student's excused from school. So if a student goes on a vacation, or if a student is on college visits, we see at the high school, if they've missed 10% of the school year, they're considered chronically absent. And so we're really looking at how can we reduce that rate in our school. We're currently in the process of our 5-year international baccalaureate evaluation, which we completed the whole written component in December that was submitted. And now we're gearing up for this spring to have our site visit. The other part with the reason that that's on there as well is we currently have, again, we've seen, I think I shared it, 110% increase in students in those cohorts. We currently have 16 teachers teaching IB courses, and we have 38 different IB course opportunities, and 425 seats are filled in those classes. So it's just trying to structure the plan for a school of 600 to make sure that we can continue on with this rigorous programming. Can sometimes be a challenge as well. And then our facility needs, right now we have between 5 and 7 leaks throughout the building quite frequently, and then just inconsistent heating, which I know they're aware of that and working on it, but it's just been a constant challenge. And then these are a variety of our partners. We now have many dual enrollment courses offered at the high school, so we've definitely worked really closely with these partnerships in the community colleges, in the University of Southern Maine, as well as our new partnership at the bottom with Level All, which is really a program that's accessible they just want to level the playing field for all students to have access to, whether it's career or college readiness information. And that is it.
Excellent, thank you, Sadie.
Yes.
Thoughts or questions for Sadie? Go ahead.
Just quick follow-up ones. On the new WIA where you showed that cohort, was it a significant difference in the number of kids who participated, or did you see a growth or?
Yes, so the number of students that participated increased from 60% to 95%.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah.
Great. One more quick one.
Mhm,
On the attendance, do you know the daily average on attendance at the high school?
So our chronically absentee is 21%. 21%, which is consistent with most most high schools in Cumberland County. It's a very consistent number, especially at the high school level, if a student plans a few college visits. So it's not our truancy. So truancy is very different. That's not our truancy number. These are students that have planned absences or excused absences. So if a student missed a week of school for illness, they would be considered chronically absent, or if they had a family vacation, or we see a lot of college visits at the high school level where people will take a few days off here and a few days off here, and 10% when you only have 3 months of school, for example, a 10% is such a short window of days.
Wait, 10% of, why is it only 3 months?
Or just how many you have. So when you have, like, as the school year goes on, so it's 10% of your school year.
Oh, thus far?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and that's how they assess the chronically
So-
absent.
Should just be whether they have more than 18 days or not over the course of a year, right?
Right.
But it's not that?
But it's not. So if you look at our data in September, it tends to be very high because if a student misses 1 or 2 days. So
Come
it does fluctuate.
That doesn't make any sense. So if you
So
miss
it
3
does-
days in the first 10, you're chronically absent?
And then it can go, if you attend the second month it comes. So it definitely fluctuates a lot. This is very consistent. Our numbers are not inconsistent with other schools, but we definitely want to look at just how we can.
Can I ask
Be
it
better.
a different way?
Yeah.
Do you know on any given day, what percentage of your 600 kids are in class?
Most often, it's well over 90.
Okay, that was
Yeah.
that was the way I was thinking when you said 81, I was like,
Yeah.
or 20, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we have, our attendance secretary does a fantastic job of, we have a full report with every single student that's on that list and the reason why. So that way we know, is it illness, is it, again, college visits, is it a family vacation? But just making sure we're really tracking the why, so then we can dive into, to target that issue.
So this 21% includes, let's just say excused and unexcused?
Yes.
Okay. I think this is a problem, that just because the other schools have the same percentage we do, doesn't make it, listening to all the programs and everything we offer here, there should be a lot of incentive for the kids to stay in school and not be absent, except for the excused, sickness and college, type thing. Is there any plans in researching this any further?
Yes.
To narrow it down and give us a better percentage of, because this is a shocking number.
Yes.
And we
In
may
our-
need to have that defined more clearly,
Mhm.
I think.
Yep, absolutely. We've looked at we're following Attendance Works, which is Count Me In organization. So it's a nationally recognized organization that talks about processes, like how can schools, what can we do? So we have our attendance secretary, who again does a very detailed form. We meet every Monday, the school counselors, the administrators, and the attendance secretary, to really say, how can we utilize our advisors and checking in? We have very few students that are on there that we don't know the why behind. For example, if a student is hospitalized, and especially with illness, when some are saying take 5 days, stay out of school for 5 days, they become chronically absent because of that. So they're not true, and our truancy number is low of students we don't, but the chronically absent, we're definitely exploring. Again, we want students to be here in school. So we're definitely exploring what can we do. Every week we meet to talk about that.
Can I also ask what,
Sure, go
in
ahead.
your report you have SWIS? I'm not sure what that is.
Yes, Swiss. So Swiss is a database that we use as a district to track behavior referrals. So if there's an incident in a class with a student being disruptive, or it can be something like a student's tardy to class or a student's disruptive or anything that results, they'll enter the Swiss. So that way we can again gather our data information to see if our interventions are working or not.
And one more question.
Yeah.
Great Schools, you mentioned, as one of these, not sponsors, one of the groups here.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what Great Schools is, I haven't heard of that.
Yes, Great Schools Partnership is the group that we are now gonna start working with instead of NEASC for the accreditation.
Oh,
And they're gonna be our partner to really help every 5 years, and every year work with us, but then every 5 years produce that report.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anything else? The only thing I had for you, Sadie, was on the advisory program. We just, also kind of as a refresher for the board, we funded a new half-time position on that last year to oversee the advisory program and make sure that it, basically everything you saw there, we want to integrate it with the middle school. We want to make sure that it's providing, you know, real instruction and meeting standards and not just a homeroom, you know. In your opinion, is that properly resourced?
Mhm.
Is it, you know, is there anything that you're missing in terms of making that advisory program successful?
No, that has been a fantastic addition to moving the work forward, and especially with that consistency with grades 5 through 12, and just having a one person to go to. Where it's the midway point of the school year, we actually had a meeting with our staff today to talk about really making sure we're getting timely feedback, what's going well with every lesson, what's not. But it's so beneficial to have one person kind of gathering all that information, and then as a team working together to push that out. So that's been a real positive addition.
Great.
Yep.
All right, any
And
other? Oh,
Just
go ahead.
one
Yeah,
more
please.
clarifying
Yeah.
point to Fran, to the number as well. So the way the high school attendance goes as well is if a student comes in late for a dentist appointment and or leaves early for appointment, if they're not there for 50% of the day, they're absent for the day according to the state. So we do have some students that maybe if they have physical therapy appointments and or a dentist or orthodontist, so sometimes that can actually impact, even though we know they have a doctor's note, but that could impact that data too.
That's why it needs to be separated, I
Yep.
think.
Yep.
Clarified.
All right, so I don't think we have a parking lot question for Sadie. I don't have anything on my list. All right. Thank you, Sadie. Let's move on
Perfect.
to the middle school.
Excellent.
Excellent. So, starting out like everybody else did, some recognitions and celebrations. Our staffing at the middle school has improved significantly. We have 2 ed tech openings. This is the best staffed we have been in my 4 years here in the district. So it's just amazing. Our advisory program, Sadie talked about it, right? It's really teaching our students about those high school options, career options, and we also invest a lot of time on regular school citizenship, right? What does it mean to be a good student? What does it mean to be a good member of our school? So we invest a lot of time in that, making sure that our kids know what those expectations are and how to get there. This year, we have 37 students enrolled in high school level Algebra 1. That was 19 last year. So that's a huge increase there. And we have 18 students this year enrolled in Spanish 1. Last year, that was 9. So we're giving our students these opportunities to kind of advance their own education so to set them up for high school, right? A student that completes Spanish 1 at the middle school jumps into Spanish 2 at the high school. And it just gives them that opportunity to, to advance their education that much better. A few more things under our recognition and celebration. Our student council leadership has been really active in our school this year. It's really great. Some of it is the personalities. Some of it is that Mr. Lamoureux has taken over now for a few years and is really helping build this program. But it's been really nice to have them. They meet with Mrs. Dako and I on a monthly basis. We do like a lunch together and sit down and talk about what's going on in the school. They ask what they can do to support us. We ask what the students need. So it's a real give and take, and it's been really positive for us. Horace Mann continues to support our recognition of staff excellence. They provide us with, they call it a Mugs and Kisses Award, and we make sure that we're recognizing our staff who are going above and beyond. There are different ways in which people do that, so we have an opportunity to recognize those people. And our playground was a huge hit this fall, especially for our 5th and 6th graders. 7th and 8th graders were a little beyond it. You know, the obstacle course wasn't quite as cool for them, but our younger students just loved that. So it was really nice to have that equipment installed and get that taken care of. And, you know, kudos to Jeff and Tom. They really helped us get this done. Result of last year's goals. So last year, we had 3 goals. The first one was to create a school-wide universal systems for the multi-tiered systems of support for behavior. We have a faculty team that meets. We have 2 leaders for that group, but then we also have a number of staff that volunteer and meet on a monthly basis, and we look at our systems. So we've created a matrix for the school, those acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. We review those in advisory program. Teachers have those posted in their rooms so that we have real common language for all of our kids. Student recognition, we do Patriot Pride cards. So we give those out regularly to kids and as recognition of doing the right thing. So it can be as simple as somebody dropped their books on the floor, a kid comes up behind them and helps them pick those books up, right? Those are the things that we want to make sure that we're reinforcing with our kids, those behaviors that we want to see. And then we provided faculty professional development on supporting those positive student behaviors. Again, the other piece that goes with that, we added a restorative practices ed tech in this year. On a weekly basis, she worked with about 20 students a week. She supports students in completing some of the academic work, as well as some explicit instruction around behaviors, talking with them. And I dig into that a little bit more. One of the things that she does with students as a more restorative piece of our disciplinary action is to go through with those students. So how did this behavior impact others? And we ask them to think about expanding that out, not just like, Jimmy hit Bobby, but who else got impacted by that? Who else, did Mrs. Dako have to then interview students? Was this a big time suck for her for this behavior? What happens if you do this in the workplace? What happens if you do this on the street to somebody? So we ask them to think about those in bigger ways. And I've got a little data after to share with you about what we're seeing this year with that in place. So we reduced the number of students missing instruction because of suspensions. Didn't put this in here, in the notes here, but I'm going to tell you right now. Last year, from August to December, we had 41 suspensions. This past year, we had 14. Repeat offenders, last year there were 11 of them. This year there's only 4. So those people who have been suspended more than once, 11 last year, 4 this year. So the work that we're doing is making a difference in keeping these kids and making them understand their behavior and preventing further time being lost for them. Second goal that we had for last year, creating that comprehensive advisory program, including the specific lessons. Our advisory coordinator, Lisa Nedler, meets regularly with our school counselors, talks about, the pieces of school counseling that need to fit into advisory, career and college readiness, really giving those opportunities for student engagement in understanding student citizenship. And our faculty, she also comes in and monthly supports our staff with lessons. She reviews what our advisory lessons are so that the staff really know how to deliver this and how to make sure that all of our kids are engaged in the process. And our third goal last year was working on realigning our grade level content standards in our curriculum documents. And again, I know Chana has shared a lot of this. We finished actually this afternoon pulling together grades 5 through 8 and making sure that we had those curriculum guides ready on our end. So now those will be worked on vertically so that we can look at making sure, 5 through or K through 12 are all in alignment, and then those go to you guys for your approval. Update on this year's goals. So we really hyper-focused this year and took on 2 goals for this year. The first one, indicated through our behavior data tracking system, that's SWIS, that you were asking about. Lost instructional time due to negative behaviors will be reduced by 25%. So that's suspensions. That's also because prior to the restorative room ed tech, that was just Mrs. Dako or myself responding to those. If we were in a meeting, we were otherwise occupied, a lot of times those kids would just sit in the office waiting for us to get to them or for someone to have the opportunity to have the discussion. Utilizing those restorative practices, ed tech, we will go now, we go to the room, they call for Patriot support, we go to the room, sometimes we immediately switch out, somebody will go in the classroom teacher will step out with that kid, say, listen, this is what I need, and be able to have that one-to-one discussion so that instruction can continue in the room and that student gets back to class quicker. So that's a big piece. And then our MTSSB leaders, they work on instructing our data. We look at our behavior data, where are things happening, what are the things happening, and then how are we going to respond to this? Do we need increased supervision in certain places? Do we need kids to understand that you can't put your hands on even if it's your buddy, right? So that things aren't getting carried away and then there's trouble. So doing that. And again, another piece of comparative data down at the bottom, the difference between August to December 22 and 23, we have a 36% decrease right now in that lost instructional time.
That's terrific.
Our other goal, we focused on our academic pieces. So we wanted to make sure, I'll just take one little step back with that. We can't control who comes to us and where they are. We have kids move in our district all the time, right? Kids come from anywhere else in the state, even coming from our other schools. We can't control if they're meeting grade level standards when they come to us or not. What we do have control over is that we can make sure that our students are making growth, that they are making at least a year's worth of growth within a year, within a school year. NWEs help us measure that really well. The state requires fall and spring testing now. We also, at the middle school, we do winter testing as well, so we can do that kind of halfway checkpoint. So a few pieces that we've put in there. Our faculty, they meet with our reading and math specialists every month now, talking about Tier 1 instruction. So my 6th grade math teachers all get together with the math specialist and they talk about how are our kids doing in math? What are some struggles we're seeing for our kids? How did you teach that? Because you're getting better results than me. And those discussions are really helping us grow. As well, faculty are doing individual monthly meetings with the math specialists or reading specialists to talk about our students who are in Tier 2 or 3. So those kids that need more intervention, they're meeting with those specialists and they're having discussions about, you know, how's Ricky doing? Ricky's doing okay? Yep, he sits down with me for an extra 10 minutes during wind time every other day. He's making the progress that we need to see him making, he's getting there. Or Ricky's not making progress. What next? What can I try? So those are big discussions with those instructional specialists and the classroom teachers. The other pieces working towards this goal, we're using IXL pretty extensively. It's a program that does a couple things. It does diagnostic testing to see where students are and where their strengths and weaknesses are, so that we can really target those. And that data is reviewed, again, with the teachers and those instructional specialists. They review that data that they have on their students and look at what else can we do? Is there something else to do? IXL is pretty neat too, that because there is a certain amount of intuitive, it adjusts to where students are. And it also has some built-in video lessons. So if a student happens to be struggling with the concept, I'm sure never happened to any of you, it did happen to me though, that there were cases in my learning when the teacher I had, I just didn't speak the same language they did. And so they kept telling me the same thing, and I might not understand that really clearly. IXL gives us one more option where they can pop on a video and they can say, you want to divide, you know, a 3-digit number by a 2-digit number? This is how you do it. And it's one more way that they can look at that and review it. It also gives the opportunity for some of those kids that are a little more advanced. It can push them. Actually, I had a 5th grader the other day, kind of complained about IXL, and they were like, it's so hard, it's so hard. And I was like, well, let's talk about what you're doing. So we're looking at it, and really IXL had pushed them into beginning of 8th grade math standards. So no wonder this is hard for you. That it's great that you, right, that you can push yourself that far, and no wonder it's hard, because you're doing this out there on your own. Well, I think I went ahead. Okay, sorry. And the other piece there is our February 2nd workshop is focused on our NWEA data for winter. We don't have all of those numbers yet. We've done our reading test. We do the math tomorrow. And we need to look at the progress of our students. NWEA in the fall, you can ask it to project growth for each individual student, and it gives a growth number for them. So what this winter check does for us is we'll be able to look at that, and if, again, if Ricky is supposed to get a 6-point growth by May, has he made 3 points by January? If he hasn't made a 3-point growth at this point in the year, we're probably falling a little behind, we need to help him a little more. Or is he on target for going to where he needs to be? So that's gonna help us meet that 80% of our students making more than a year's growth. Current challenges, and I've got to say, not only the playground, but really Tom and particularly Tom has been really responsive when we have issues. So the care of our facilities is greatly improved in the last year plus. But we still have some facility needs, and we saw these all in October, everybody that came. There's nothing that's a surprise here. We have some leaks that just are ongoing that we need some real solutions for, some brick and soffit work on the outside. We saw some of that impact on the drainage, and the upgrades to the locker rooms are things that we should really be looking at. Another challenge, we have a half-time regular education social worker, still has a wait list. It's, you know, she's doing great work. We rotate kids through as we feel like she's helped them develop skills to manage some of their pieces. She does, you know, for lack of a better term, I guess, graduate kids out. So we're able to move more kids in with her, but there's always a wait list for her services. And then staffing, right, all staffing is kind of a challenge. You guys hear that all the time. Co-curricular activities, more so at the middle school, tend to be a challenge. I think there's some reality in that people that coach like to coach their way up, right? So a lot of people don't want to just be the middle school coach forever. They'd like to be the varsity coach someday. So people work their way up through, and that's some of it. And I love any volunteers, or even not volunteers, but people, they're paid positions. If there are community members that have some skills and want to work with our middle schoolers, we love it. Mr. Welch this year ended up, for lack of candidates, had to coach soccer and basketball this year. And that really limits his availability to do intramurals. And then bringing other people in, their life situations just change. There are staff members that used to coach 3 sports and now they have 3 kids. And so they're not that available anymore. So that continues to be a challenge for us at the middle school. And then the partnerships leveraged, I think we've mentioned most of them already. Do want to make sure that one of the big partnerships in that is the high school staff and administration. This has been great. Sadie and Jade are great to work with for us to be able to continue those partnerships to make sure that we're able to meet the needs of our kids all the way 5 through 12. Trying to really build that. CMCC. We do have an email chain of middle school administrators in the area. So when we come up with an issue, we post it to our peers, see if anybody else is seeing it, see if anybody else has great ideas or experiencing the same problem, so we can work through that together. And then Patriot Parents are always a support. And that was it.
Great, thanks, Rick. All right, that was a lot to digest. Any thoughts or questions for Rick? Go ahead, Penny.
One thing.
I got Penny's hand over here, so
Oh, I didn't see that.
that's why I
I'm
asked
sorry.
her if
I'll
she'd
wait.
go first.
That's okay. I know staffing is often the things that are hard to fix. But, on the social worker, is that something that is fixable moving forward with, an increase to the position? Is that up there on purpose?
It's a good question. I don't know, so in the 2 years we've had it, I don't think that the wait list is so big that it's another half-time for us. It's not quite that big, but there is a constant wait list. She has 24 students that she services, and that's what she can fit in her schedule half-time with us, and she does half-time at the high school. We usually have 5 kids, maybe 6, on a wait list. So it's not another full half-time, but it's,
Sure. Is this the same person who's seeing kids with 504s, IEPs, so there's a certain percentage of time?
IEP students, we have 2 special education social workers.
Okay.
And
This is
they
general ed.
see the students with IEPs. Students with 504s do see this individual.
And you're able to meet at least the needs of kids who have 504
Oh, yeah,
with her and
Yeah.
then some extra?
yeah.
Go ahead, Fran.
On the IXL program that
Mm.
you mentioned, targeting where, somebody would be falling behind, does that also, how do they deal with, say, for instance, a trauma that happened? Of course, that would put the student behind. Is this the program that works with that, or is it social working with them? Or
Yeah, that would
how
be,
does this all
yeah.
work?
If there are students who have experienced trauma and that's been impacting their education or their ability to access their education, that's usually managed through social work. Because it's really the skills, it's managing their social emotional need to be able to move on, to access the education. But we're not going to ignore the academic aspect either. We continue to work on that. IXL is just one more piece that helps us see where kids are in that moment. And, there's no replacement for direct teacher instruction. And all of our kids in Tier 2 and Tier 3, you can't put them on a computer and say, go have at it, right? We've got to have the teachers sitting down with those kids, either a small group or one-on-ones where, they're giving those kids that extra support.
And just from my observation, as a new member, and there's so much information out there to get a handle on, I often sit here thinking there seems to be duplication of efforts in different programs. For targeting kids, especially for targeting kids. So, I'm thinking of that general new program, that you just, the district is adopting. I can't think of the letters now. But anyway, point is, that's where I'm sitting and thinking, it's just not one, it seems like there's a bunch of different things, programs, like the One XL program.
Yeah.
Or targeting, and then there's, tracking the kids as they're going through the school system, for their grading and careers and all this kind of stuff. Seems like there's an awful lot of this
Well-
type of stuff.
I would say at the middle school, we really don't track students. There are a few students that we do have, particularly for 8th grade, that have an opportunity to take an advanced course. And to some degree, I guess that there is some tracking in there, but that's not really the purpose of it. It's
think-
to allow them the opportunity to,
I don't think she was using tracking in the educational definition of the term. She just
Okay.
meant tracking like, literally
Keeping track
following,
of
keeping
them.
track of, yeah. So
Okay.
in an educational setting, tracking means like an honors
Sorry.
level track, a general ed track, or, so I think we just had a,
yeah. Yep. And we do, and so I would say there are a lot of different ways that we do monitor our students and try to make sure. I think, so one thing that experiencing this coming from working in an elementary school with Title I programs. Title I programs don't replace the initial instruction. They're supplemental. They're additional. So if a kid is behind in reading, you don't pull them out of reading class to give them a one-on-one reading. They stay in their reading class, and then they also get some additional reading help. And that's what a lot of these things are designed to do, because we've got to help these kids make their catch-up growth. We've got to have them make more than a year's growth, or they're never, right? If you're 2 years behind and you're only making 1 year at a time, you're never going to get caught up. So we've got to advance that. And so these are all the pieces that we put in to make sure that our kids have that opportunity to grow.
other questions or thoughts for Rick? Just looking at your report, it looks like the staffing levels, you're not expecting any changes for next year?
No, we're
Um,
feeling like we've got, and I've got to say too, the hires, I was trying to think about this the other day. If I have in my head correctly, I've hired in the last 4 years 28 of the staff that we now have in the building. I'm feeling like we got the right people. We're where we want to be. We have the right people, and we have the right number of people. So we've got, now it's the fine tuning pieces that we're getting to, the help with Lisa and advisory, making sure that we're getting all the supports in place, that we're really hyper-focusing our work and helping our kids grow behaviorally and academically. That's the work that we're really knee-deep in right now.
Yeah, just as a commentary from my end, seeing the data on 36% reduction in lost instructional time, plus in curriculum, we saw, the big jump from spring to fall in the NUIA data. Just kudos to you, it really seems like you got a handle on what was going on there, and, things
yeah.
seem a lot better this year.
Yes, thank you. It's right, but it's the staff doing the work. They're the ones that are, pulling up their boots every day. They're giving up planning time that, they could say, no, thank you, but they're not. They're jumping in with the specialists to say, how are we gonna best serve our kids? So,
That's great. All right, unless anybody else has anything for Rick? All right, I don't have any parking lot questions for you, I don't think, so I think I'll hear a motion to adjourn if anybody would like to.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I'll assume everybody's in favor of that. Thanks, everybody, for all your work in the reports. Very informative today, and we look forward to the next workshop a week from today. Thanks so much.